American dream. What comes to mind? What does that mean to you?
With this day and age, it's not really gonna happen.
In a crisis like this one, you have this new population of people who are unemployed.
It might be hard to believe, but this is the voice of real Americans who once believed in the dream. The American dream, a promise of opportunity, stability, and dignity, is now slipping away in many parts of the country. What happened? Why are entire communities facing hardship? And why are once thriving states now struggling to stay afloat? In this video, we explore the top 10 states collapsing fastest in America due to poverty and the homelessness crisis. From cold forests to sunny beaches, from old industrial centers to new tech hubs, no place is immune. Let's take a deeper look at the places where the struggle is no longer invisible and where the cracks in the system are widening each day. As usual, this is not a pessimistic warning, but a perspective reflecting multiple sources to help the community understand better and prepare proactively. Are you ready to explore the dark side of the most vibrant and luxurious city in America? Let's start right now. First on the list of America's fastest collapsing states, Texas. The land of opportunity, now a land people can't afford to live in. Texas is often seen as a symbol of strength, wide skies, booming cities, and endless possibilities. But behind the state's rapid growth lies a quiet emergency that's pushing more families to the edge. With over 30 million residents, Texas has one of the fastest growing populations in the country. But this growth comes at a cost, and it's being paid by the working class. The cost of living in major cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston has skyrocketed. A one-bedroom apartment in Austin now averages over $1,800 per month, and even in smaller towns, rents have jumped 40 to 60% in just a few years. Yet, the state still has no rent control laws, leaving tenants exposed to unexpected rent changes. More alarmingly, Texas has seen a sharp rise in homelessness among full-time workers. From nurses sleeping in their cars to delivery drivers showering at gyms, the line between employed and homeless is vanishing. Shelters in cities like San Antonio and El Paso are at capacity almost every night.
My third wish would be that my mom and dad could have picked me up, and that they could have seen me free.
And while the tech and energy sectors flourish, essential workers, the very people keeping cities running, are being priced out, left with no safety net and no space to live. This isn't just a housing issue, it's a warning sign. Texas may not be collapsing all at once, but the cracks are spreading. And if they continue, the foundation will follow. So here is the point. What happens to the land of opportunity when even opportunity comes without a roof?
It's a mess. It's very unstable.
And I feel like I'm forgotten.
A state known for its natural beauty, now struggling to shelter its own people. Oregon, with its towering pine forests, scenic coastlines, and progressive spirit, has long been seen as a peaceful escape for those seeking balance between nature and modern life. But behind the postcard image, a growing storm is taking hold. Today, Oregon is one of the states most affected by the homelessness crisis in America. According to recent reports, more than 18,000 people in the state are living without permanent housing, and that number is climbing every year. In cities like Portland, Eugene, and Medford, tent encampments have become a common sight along highways, riverbanks, and downtown streets. What's more alarming, nearly half of Oregon's homeless population is unsheltered, meaning they sleep outside in the elements without even temporary accommodation.
Our homeless population blew up. I mean, it did in a lot of other cities, but for some reason, Portland got hit especially hard.
Rising housing prices, limited rental supply, and stagnant wages are just part of the problem. The state has seen a surge of people moving in, but housing construction hasn't kept pace. In Portland, for example, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment has passed $1,700, while minimum wage remains just above $14 per hour. A man living in a tent near downtown Portland said, "I work part-time. I get up at 5 a.m. to clean offices, and I come back here. This is all I can afford." Efforts have been made. Oregon passed emergency housing measures and invested in temporary shelters. But the scale of the crisis continues to grow beyond what local systems can handle. Even well-meaning policies are often slowed by bureaucracy or community resistance. And perhaps what's most concerning, entire families are now appearing in these encampments. Parents with young children, seniors, disabled veterans. The face of homelessness in Oregon is no longer one type, it's everyone. This is not just a local issue, this is a warning to the entire nation. If a state as forward-thinking as Oregon is struggling to provide basic shelter, what does that say about the country's larger priorities? Let's go to a state that symbolizes power, ambition, and wealth. New York. A place known to the world as the capital of dreams. The American dream begins here, but for many, it's also where it ends. Behind its glimmering skyline, many are packing up and walking away. According to recent statistics, 179,000 people left New York in 2024 alone, making it one of the fastest shrinking states in the country. And the reasons?
35 years, I'm a college graduate. I have no record. I have never been arrested or accused of anything, and I sleep on the sidewalk.
New York has one of the highest costs of living in the United States, averaging 48.8% above the national norm. A one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan or Brooklyn can easily cost over $4,000 per month. Even basic groceries and utilities are significantly more expensive than in other states. And that's just the beginning. With a state income tax rate of 10.9%, the second highest in the country, families are finding it harder and harder to stay afloat. Even dual-income households are feeling the pressure, as rent, transportation, childcare, and healthcare all continue to rise. But what's most alarming is the scale of homelessness. As of 2024, over 91,000 people in New York are living without stable housing, many of them in shelters, subways, or on city sidewalks. That's the highest number of any state in the country. New York may be a global icon, but in the shadows of Times Square and Wall Street, thousands are sleeping rough, exposed to harsh weather, violence, and hunger. A growing number are elderly or disabled. Some are employed, but still unable to afford a roof. The state has launched programs and funding to address the issue, but many argue it's not enough. Bureaucratic red tape, rising property values, and resistance to shelter expansion have slowed progress. And in the meantime, the streets continue to fill. So what happens when even the Empire State can't provide shelter for its own citizens? New York's story is no longer just about ambition, it's about survival. After New York, you might think we've seen the worst. But California tells a different kind of story, one where the sun shines bright, but the shadows are longer than ever. The Golden State, but for whom? Any and everybody can be homeless. Any and everybody is at risk. 426 to 431. California has always been a dream destination. Beaches, mountains, startups, and stars. But today, it's also home to one of the largest and most visible homelessness crises in the world. Let's begin with the numbers. In 2024, over 171,000 people were recorded as experiencing homelessness across the state. The highest number of any state in the US. From Los Angeles to San Francisco, entire blocks have turned into tent-lined sidewalks. Parks, underpasses, and even residential neighborhoods now reflect a reality that's hard to ignore. But it's not just homelessness. The average home price in California has surged to over $750,000, nearly double the national average. And if you want to rent, a modest one-bedroom in San Francisco or Los Angeles can easily cost $3,000 to $4,000 per month. Pair that with a state income tax of up to 13.3%, the highest in the country, and you get a system where even working professionals are struggling to stay housed. A middle school teacher in Oakland shared, "I grade papers all day, teach full-time, and sleep in my car at night. I'm not ashamed, I'm exhausted." That exhaustion is growing. The cost of living has outpaced income in almost every major California city. And while tech companies, film studios, and tourism still generate billions, thousands of residents are quietly being left behind, priced out of the very neighborhoods they helped build. To make matters worse, housing development often meets resistance. Communities push back against affordable housing projects. shelters are full. Emotional support services are overwhelmed. And the cycle continues. So what does it say when the world's fifth largest economy can't guarantee shelter for its citizens? California may still glitter, but for many, the gold has faded. Coming from the towering rents of California, we now land in a state that faces a very different kind of crisis. Louisiana, rich in heritage, rhythm, and resilience, is battling not just poverty, but the weight of history itself. I've been here for 40 years, and I'm trying to do something with myself. For years, Louisiana has ranked among the poorest states in the United States. As of the latest data, over 18.5% of residents live below the poverty line, far above the national average. In many neighborhoods across Baton Rouge and New Orleans, basic needs like stable housing, healthcare, and job access remain out of reach for thousands of families. But it's not just economics. Louisiana is also one of the states most vulnerable to natural disasters. Hurricanes, floods, and tropical storms have repeatedly devastated communities, forcing families out of their homes, sometimes permanently. Even after nearly 2 decades, many parts of New Orleans are still recovering from the damage left by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. And with every storm, the same cycle repeats: destruction, displacement, and for many, homelessness. Currently, tens of thousands across the state live in unstable housing conditions, from crowded shelters to makeshift homes. In rural areas, some people live without running water or electricity, waiting for repairs that may never come. Wages in Louisiana also remain among the lowest in the country. The average household income hovers around $53,500, and for many, that's simply not enough to maintain even a modest life, especially when rent and insurance continue to climb. Besides, many support systems, like emotional support care, job training, and affordable housing programs, are underfunded and overstretched. Local organizations are trying, but the scale of the need is massive. So the question is, how long can a community carry the weight of both poverty and disaster before it begins to collapse? Louisiana's strength is undeniable, but so is the pressure it faces. We just left Louisiana, where poverty meets disaster. Now we head west, to a place where dreams are sold 24/7. But behind the neon glow of Las Vegas, a very different reality is unfolding. Nevada, best known for its entertainment and tourism industry, is also one of the states grappling with deep economic imbalance. In Las Vegas alone, nearly 15% of residents live below the poverty line, struggling to meet basic needs in a city built on excess. But the most jarring contrast? In 2023, over 18,500 people were documented as experiencing homelessness in the Las Vegas area alone, a 12% increase from the previous year. That's thousands of people sleeping in cars, alleyways, or behind the very casinos that tourists line up to enter. One former hotel employee, now living in a tent, shared, "I worked in a 5-star resort. Now I sleep behind it." A rapidly rising cost of living, limited affordable housing, and an over-reliance on low-wage, service-based jobs that offer little stability or upward mobility. While the city booms with concerts, conventions, and mega-projects, many residents struggle to afford a single-bedroom apartment, now averaging over $1,500 per month, and that's on the low end. To make matters worse, Nevada lacks strong tenant protections or rent control policies. This leaves renters exposed to sudden hikes with no legal recourse. Another issue fueling the problem: explosive population growth. As more people move to Nevada for its tax advantages and warm climate, the demand for housing has outpaced supply, pushing low-income residents further to the margins. Despite ongoing efforts by local nonprofits and city programs, shelters remain overwhelmed, and mental health services, often a critical component of long-term support, are chronically underfunded. Las Vegas may shine on the outside, but for tens of thousands, it's become a place of survival, not success. So the question remains, can a city known for dreams fix a reality that's crumbling behind the scenes? From the lights of Las Vegas, we now turn to a place that once thrived quietly: West Virginia. A land of green mountains, coal mines, and deep tradition. But today, it's facing a reality far from its nickname: almost heaven. West Virginia is now one of the states losing population the fastest in the US. Once a major hub of coal and manufacturing, the decline of those industries has left entire towns without jobs, without purpose, and without a plan forward. Over the past decade, coal jobs have dropped by more than 40%. And with few industries to replace them, the result is clear. Young people are leaving, and those who stay are aging. The state now has the oldest median age in the entire country, around 43.3 years. But it's not just about age, it's about opportunity, or the lack of it. In many towns, job openings are rare, public transportation is limited, and access to healthcare is a challenge, especially for the elderly and those living in rural areas. While housing costs in West Virginia are lower than in other states, many residents still can't afford even basic shelter due to low wages and unstable income. And with limited support services, those who slip through the cracks stay there. According to the West Virginia Coalition to End Homelessness, the state recorded around 1,300 people experiencing homelessness, including those in shelters, transitional housing, or without any fixed residence. It might not sound like much, but for a small, aging state, it's a growing red flag. One man in Wheeling said, "I didn't move. The world moved on without me." Beyond homelessness, the state faces mounting healthcare issues, school closures, and the hollowing out of communities that once thrived. The cycle is painfully clear. No jobs, young people leave, aging population remains, tax base shrinks, services decline, and the spiral continues. Now we turn to a state once considered the very backbone of America, Pennsylvania. A place where industries were born, cities rose, and communities thrived. But that foundation is starting to crack. According to recent data, Pennsylvania is now one of the top states losing population, with over 40,000 residents leaving in just a single year. Many of them are young families and working professionals, searching for better opportunities elsewhere. For decades, Pennsylvania relied on manufacturing, coal, and steel to fuel its economy. But as those sectors declined, many towns were left behind, with empty factories and shrinking job markets. Whole communities now face low wages, unemployment, and rising poverty. The average household income in the state is around $67,500, but that number hides the deep disparities between prosperous suburbs and struggling post-industrial towns. And the homelessness crisis is growing too. Major cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh have seen sharp increases in people without stable housing, from those living in tents along the rivers to families temporarily staying in shelters or motels. In Philadelphia alone, it's estimated that nearly 15,000 people experience homelessness each year. But this isn't just about numbers. It's about people who once had steady jobs, homes, and routines, now navigating survival in places that no longer have space for them. Even as Pennsylvania tries to reinvent itself with healthcare, education, and logistics jobs, the gap between old promise and new reality keeps growing. Public infrastructure is aging. School districts in lower income areas face funding cuts, and many smaller towns are stuck in limbo, not quite collapsing, but no longer thriving. A state that once held the country together is now struggling to hold itself up. You've seen the photos: turquoise water, white sand, rainbows arcing over lush mountains. Hawaii is sold as a dream, a tropical escape. But for many people born and raised here, that dream has turned into something else entirely. This is not an isolated case. Hawaii has the highest homelessness rate in the United States. Thousands of residents live in tents along beaches, under palm trees, or tucked between tourist zones. The contrast is so stark that it almost feels unreal until you see it with your own eyes. Let's talk numbers. The average rent for a one-bedroom in Honolulu is around $2,500 per month. A two-bedroom can reach $3,500 or more, depending on location. Groceries, fuel, and utilities are among the most expensive in the country, mainly because Hawaii imports most of what it consumes. Now add this. The average household income is just over $88,000, which sounds decent until you realize it's barely enough to cover living expenses in Hawaii's inflated economy. And yet, tourists still arrive daily, flying in for honeymoons, photo ops, and sunset cruises, mostly unaware that just beyond the resort walls, entire families are struggling to stay housed. Local workers, from servers and hotel cleaners to construction laborers, are increasingly being pushed out. Many now live in shelters, cars, or move to the mainland altogether. Government efforts to address homelessness exist, but are often underfunded or delayed by policy debates and zoning resistance. Some communities resist new housing projects to protect the view, even as their neighbors live in tents. It's not that Hawaii is failing because of one crisis. It's failing under the weight of many quiet, unspoken ones. The cost of living, the lack of housing, the gap between what the world sees and what locals live through every day. So when you look at a postcard of Hawaii, ask yourself, who can still afford to live in paradise? We've seen the beaches of Hawaii, the factories of Pennsylvania, and the lights of Vegas. But now, we arrive at the most quietly devastating crisis in America. Alaska. Yes, Alaska. A place known for glaciers, auroras, and untamed beauty. A destination for adventurers, nature lovers, and those seeking peace. But behind its majestic views is a truth that very few outsiders ever see. Alaska has one of the highest homelessness rates per capita in the United States. And here, homelessness isn't just about shelter, it's about survival. In most states, sleeping in a car or a tent is dangerous. In Alaska, it can lead to severe outcomes. In winter, temperatures often plunge below -20 degrees Fahrenheit or -29 degrees Celsius. And with limited shelter space, many people sleep outdoors, in forests, or under highway overpasses, wrapped in blankets not meant for this level of cold. Why is it this bad? Alaska faces a unique combination of challenges: harsh weather conditions, limited economic diversity, most jobs tied to fishing, oil, or seasonal tourism, a shrinking population as thousands leave each year, and a high cost of living, where even basics like food and heating fuel are more expensive than almost anywhere else in the country. Jobs are few. Affordable housing is rare, and for many who fall behind, there's simply nowhere else to go. In rural Alaska, the situation is often worse. Entire villages face food insecurity. Medical care is hours, sometimes day, away. And mental health support, almost non-existent. Even in the cities, shelters are overfilled. Emergency programs are underfunded, and the state's vast geography makes outreach and response slow and inconsistent. It's the perfect storm: extreme environment, economic hardship, and isolation, all colliding to create one of the most dangerous homelessness crises in America. So yes, Alaska, the land of endless sky and wilderness, now finds itself at the top of a list no state wants to lead. And that leads us to one final question. If even the most remote, majestic corner of America is collapsing, what does that say about the rest of the country? This wasn't a video about politics. It wasn't a video to make you feel afraid. It was a mirror, held up to a country where dreams are real. But so are the struggles that threaten to erase them. From the icy forests of Alaska to the sunny shores of Hawaii, we've seen how poverty, homelessness, and rising costs are reshaping everyday life in places we once believed were strong, stable, and untouchable. But collapse doesn't always come in the form of disaster. Sometimes it's slow, quiet, built one rent increase at a time, one closed factory, one ignored neighborhood. Sometimes it looks like people fading out of the picture, while everyone else keeps moving. We didn't create this video to offer easy answers. But if you felt something, a moment of sadness, frustration, or even just awareness, that's where change begins. Because the most dangerous thing isn't crisis, it's indifference. What do you think about the top 10 states collapsing fastest in America? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Disclaimer: this video was created for the purpose of awareness, social analysis, and public discussion. All statistics were drawn from public reports, official sources, and non-profit data. We are not affiliated with any political organization or government agency, and this video does not replace legal or financial advice. Our goal is to open a conversation, not to accuse, divide, or oversimplify.